If you think sweet bread is always bad for blood sugar, especially with diabetes, I understand it seems obvious. But the truth is more interesting. There are a few types of bread that are not only safe, they can actually help. Let me gently walk you through them. Let's start with something unexpected: coconut flour bread. Now I know that might sound a little fancy, maybe even too health food store for most folks. But stick with me here, because what makes this bread special isn't just the flavor, it's what it doesn't do. See, many traditional breads, what's especially the soft, white, sweet kind, turn quickly into sugar in your body. That can cause your blood sugar to spike and crash, which leaves you feeling tired, foggy, and sometimes even dizzy. And for older adults, especially those with diabetes or pre-diabetes, those ups and downs are more than unpleasant. They can be dangerous. Your body doesn't bounce back the way it used to, and sudden changes in glucose can increase your risk for falls, confusion, or even heart trouble. That's why choosing the right kind of bread matters, and coconut flour bread can make a real difference. I'll tell you a story about a man I worked with named Robert. He's 71 and lives out in the dry warmth of Arizona. A gentle, thoughtful man who always used to start his mornings with toast and honey. It was his little ritual. After he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, he tried switching to whole wheat, then rye, but nothing felt quite right. His sugars still went up, and worse, he said breakfast just didn't feel like breakfast anymore. One day his daughter brought him a loaf of coconut flour bread she found at a local health market. He gave it a skeptical look. It smelled sweet, he told me, but decided to try it. We talked about it a few weeks later. He said something that stuck with me. It tastes like the old days, but my numbers stay where they should. Turns out, the high fiber in coconut flour slows the absorption of sugars in the body, and because it's grain-free, it doesn't spike glucose the way wheat can. Another client of mine, Alice, 68, from Florida, started baking her own version at home using eggs, coconut flour, and olive oil. She said it became her Sunday joy, the way pancakes used to be. It's funny how something as small as a slice of bread can bring back comfort and also peace of mind. One of the easiest ways to try this is to look for coconut flour bread at health food stores or farmers markets. It's often in the freezer section. If you enjoy baking, there are simple recipes that use just a few ingredients: eggs, coconut flour, a bit of baking soda, and a healthy oil. It pairs well with cottage cheese, natural peanut butter, or even avocado. What matters most is that it doesn't leave you feeling shaky or worried after breakfast, and that's worth a lot. I often say that caring for your health is like learning a new rhythm, slower but steadier. You don't need to give up comfort to take care of yourself. A small, thoughtful change, like the bread you reach for in the morning, can open a door. Robert found his balance with one slice. Maybe yours is waiting too. Here's another. One that might surprise you: bread made from green buckwheat flour. Now don't let the word buckwheat throw you off. This isn't the dark, bitter kind you might have tasted in pancakes years ago. Green buckwheat is actually raw, not toasted, and it has a naturally mild, slightly sweet flavor. The key here is how it treats your body, especially if you're managing blood sugar. Unlike refined flours, green buckwheat is high in resistant starch and magnesium. That means it digests more slowly, helping to prevent blood sugar spikes, and it can support your insulin sensitivity. For older adults, that's no small thing. Your metabolism slows with age, and sudden sugar highs and lows can affect everything. From your energy to your memory, even your mood can feel the swings, so switching to this type of bread might feel small, but for many it brings more calm, more steady days. I remember Margaret, a 68-year-old retired nurse from Ohio. She was someone who prided herself on making her own bread from scratch. For years she used traditional flours, but after her blood sugar began creeping up in her mid-60s, her doctor suggested she cut back. Margaret didn't want to lose that part of her routine. Baking gave her peace, so she started researching alternatives and found green buckwheat flour through a local co-op. She baked a simple loaf using just water, sea salt, and a little olive oil. The first time she tasted it, she told me it reminded her of the bread her grandmother used to make in the 1940s. There's something earthy about it, she said, but soft, almost like it's grounding me. Another client of mine, Harold, 74 from Vermont, started using green buckwheat bread to replace his usual toast in the mornings. His fasting blood sugar dropped by 12 points over a month, and he said he no longer felt that shaky hunger mid-morning that used to send him toward cookies or juice. The bread didn't just help his numbers, it changed his whole morning rhythm. That's what real food can do when it's chosen with care. If you're curious, you can often find green buckwheat bread in the freezer section of natural food stores, or you can order the flour online and try baking it yourself. Just mix 2 cups of green buckwheat flour with warm water, a pinch of salt, and a spoon of olive oil. Let it sit, and bake it low and slow. It stores well in the fridge and can be toasted easily. Try it with a spread of hummus or sliced tomato. It's hearty and gentle at the same time. And most importantly, it won't cause the sugar spike that many other breads do. I often tell folks, the things that ground us don't have to be taken away when we get older. They just need to evolve with us. Margaret didn't stop baking. She just found a way to make it fit the life she's living now. That's a beautiful kind of strength, and it's one I know you have too. Let's move on to something warm and naturally sweet. Sweet potato bread. Now I know what you might be thinking. Sweet potatoes and bread. Isn't that too sugary for someone watching their blood sugar? But here's the truth. Sweet potatoes have a low glycemic index, especially when baked and mashed gently, and they come with fiber, vitamin A, and even a bit of protein. When used in bread, they create a soft texture and a naturally sweet flavor that doesn't rely on added sugar. For older adults, this is more than just a pleasant taste. It's a safer way to enjoy something comforting without spiking your blood sugar or making you feel guilty about it. Because let's face it, the joy of bread is something many of us grew up with. And we shouldn't have to give that up just because our bodies are changing. One of my patients, Henry, is 73 and lives alone in a small town in Florida. He's a soft-spoken man who spent most of his life working in a hardware store, and in retirement, he found himself missing the little joys, like sweet pastries in the morning. When he was diagnosed with diabetes last year, he told me it felt like a door had closed. His daughter started bringing over gluten-free breads and all sorts of diet-friendly snacks, but he said they tasted like cardboard. Then, one Saturday, while at the local farmer's market, he found a booth selling homemade sweet potato bread. No sugar added, just sweet potato, oat flour, a touch of cinnamon, and eggs. He bought a loaf out of curiosity. That evening he called me. "I think I found my breakfast," he said. Over the next few weeks, his blood sugar readings stayed stable, and more than that, he felt like he got a piece of himself back. Another client, Doris, 70, from North Carolina, started baking her own version after seeing a video online. She adds a sprinkle of nutmeg and a spoonful of flaxseed. She says it gives her energy and keeps her full until lunch, something regular bread never did. Both Henry and Doris discovered that flavor and health can live side by side, and that's something worth remembering. If you want to try it, you can look for sweet potato bread at local bakeries, especially those that offer gluten-free or whole food options, or make a simple loaf at home. Just blend 1 cooked sweet potato with a cup of oat or almond flour, 2 eggs, a little cinnamon, and bake until firm and golden. It stores well, toasts beautifully, and makes a lovely base for a slice of turkey or a spread of cottage cheese. The key here is that it satisfies the need for something soft, warm, and sweet, without causing a crash afterward. Caring for yourself doesn't mean closing the door on old joys. It just means opening a new window. Henry said that first slice of sweet potato bread felt like hope in the morning, and you deserve that too. A little hope, a little warmth, and a meal that feels like a hug. Next on our list is something a little nutty: almond flour bread. If you haven't tried it before, you might think, well, that sounds more like dessert than a healthy choice. And honestly, I get that. But here's where it gets interesting. Almonds are rich in healthy fats, protein, and fiber, and they're very low in carbohydrates. That means bread made with almond flour tends to be naturally sweet, dense, and satisfying, but it doesn't spike your blood sugar the way traditional bread does. For older adults managing diabetes or even just trying to feel more stable throughout the day, that's a big deal. You stay fuller longer, you avoid those late morning crashes, and you're feeding your body something real, something nourishing. And let's not forget, eating should still bring comfort and joy, even when we have to adjust what goes on our plate. I first came across almond flour bread while working with Barbara, a 69-year-old retired music teacher from Illinois. She had a long history of baking, especially sweetbreads and scones for her students and neighbors. But after a few scary episodes with her blood sugar, one of them landing her in the ER, she knew she had to rethink things. She was heartbroken at the idea of giving up her Sunday morning baking, so we started exploring alternatives together. She found a simple recipe for almond flour bread, using just almond flour, eggs, baking soda, and a little apple cider vinegar. The first time she made it, she told me it smelled like something familiar, like comfort. That little loaf became her new Sunday tradition. She'd slice it warm, top it with a spoonful of ricotta and a few fresh berries, and eat it on her porch with a cup of tea. Another gentleman I worked with, Thomas, 72, from Oregon, discovered almond flour bread through his church's nutrition group. He'd been struggling with sudden blood sugar crashes, especially mid-afternoon. Switching to almond flour toast with avocado made a real difference. He said it felt like his energy didn't disappear halfway through the day. Stories like these remind me that the right kind of bread can do more than fill your stomach. It can restore a sense of calm, even dignity. What often helps folks ease into almond flour bread is starting with pre-made loaves from the refrigerated section of natural food stores. They're soft, a bit nutty, and easy to digest. Once you feel confident, you can try baking it at home. Just blend 2 cups of almond flour with 3 eggs, a dash of baking soda, and bake until golden. It works well with everything from soft cheese to turkey slices, and it freezes beautifully. 1 slice in the toaster, and you've got a meal that feels whole, I always tell people. Health isn't about punishment. It's about listening to what your body needs today, not yesterday. Barbara found peace in that little loaf, not just sweetness without sugar, but a quiet reminder that she could still do the things she loved, just in a way that loved her back. And that's something I hope you'll let yourself discover too. And finally, let's talk about something hearty and grounding: flaxseed bread. Now, I know flaxseed might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of something sweet or comforting, but hear me out. Flax is one of those quiet powerhouses, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, full of soluble fiber, and incredibly low in carbohydrates. What that means for you is simple. This kind of bread helps regulate your blood sugar instead of sending it on a roller coaster. It also supports heart health, digestion, and even brain function, all of which become more important as we age. For older adults, the bonus is this: flaxseed bread tends to have a naturally mild sweetness, a dense, satisfying texture, and it doesn't leave you feeling bloated or tired afterward. It's one of those changes that can make a real difference, without taking away the pleasure of eating. One story I often think of comes from Frank, 75, a widower from a small town in Montana. Frank told me that after his wife passed, he stopped cooking altogether. Meals became something he just got through. A neighbor started checking on him, sometimes bringing over groceries, sometimes just sitting for coffee. One day, she brought him a loaf of flaxseed bread from a local bakery. He said it sat on the counter for 2 days before he even looked at it. But when he finally made a slice of toast with it, just some butter and a pinch of sea salt, he said something shifted. "It was the first bite I didn't rush," he told me. Over the weeks that followed, Frank began eating more regularly, even started making simple soups and salads to go along with that same bread. He said it grounded him, not just physically, but emotionally. Another client of mine, Judith, 70, from Wisconsin, had chronic constipation and blood sugar swings that made her feel constantly exhausted. Her daughter read about flaxseed and suggested trying the bread. Within a few weeks, not only did Judith feel more even throughout the day, but her digestion improved noticeably. That sense of stability brought back her afternoon walks, something she hadn't felt up to in over a year. For both Frank and Judith, that one loaf became more than food. It became a turning point. If you're curious about trying it, flaxseed bread can often be found in the refrigerated section of health food stores, or you can make it at home with ground flaxseed, eggs, water, and baking powder. It has a dense, chewy texture and pairs well with both sweet and savory toppings. Try It with a slice of banana or almond butter in the morning, or use it as a base for open-faced sandwiches. It's easy on the stomach and gentle on your blood sugar, which means it's kind to your body too. Sometimes we think of change as something big, loud, or dramatic, but the truth is, most of the healing I've seen in my work begins with something small and consistent: a slice of bread, a new habit, a quiet breakfast where you feel good afterward, not guilty or heavy. Frank called it his small restart. Maybe it's time for yours too. And I believe you're ready. Which of these breads would you like to try first? Let me know in the comments. If this was helpful, subscribe and tap the bell. We talk here about real life, with real care. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think, and your life still has flavor.